All right. Thank you guys for joining us today for the Rapids 2 press conference. We'll be making available today our general manager, Brian Crookham, and our head coach, Erik Bushey. We're going to go ahead and start off with comments and remarks from our general manager, Brian Crookham, and then we will go into questions. I ask that if you are going to ask a question that you please either raise your hand here in person or raise your hand in the Zoom chat. Please state your name and your outlet, and then we'll open it up to you guys. All right, we'll take it away with Brian Crookham here.
All right, I'll make it brief on my side and get to what you guys really want to hear. But I think I'm going to start out with the fact that I think as an organization, we're really proud of what this group has accomplished throughout the regular season. There have been, I think we've played 42 players in this group. And so the way that this group has had to manage change on a daily basis, but still find consistency, has been, it's been a real challenge, and they've been incredibly successful in doing that. The consistent approach to the way training goes, the consistent approach to playing methodology on the field, the reflection of what I think we want to be as a club on field has really come through with this group, and that's special. And I don't think it's also a secret that there's been some challenges, even personally. These are humans, and through our staff. Erik's dealt with some personal challenges. We've had staff out, injured, all kinds of stuff, and throughout that, it's been a next person up mentality in our locker room. We've had full buy-in from every area of this organization that's led to the success of the group, and that includes the first team staff, whether that was Robin or Chris, all the way through what we're doing at the academy level, and Chris Cartledge's contributions to this. It's been a team effort to this point, and if we set out with two major things, is to prepare individuals to be able to contribute at the MLS level, and I think we've really been able to start to see the fruits of that labor. And I think obviously the competitive side of it, we've put out a competitive team every week. And so really happy with the progress that the group has made, and the fact that we are ticking off boxes that we set out to tick off at the beginning of the year. So I guess that's our starting point, and happy to take any questions from there.
All right, we'll go ahead and open that up to the group. Just a reminder to state your name and outlet. Go ahead and kick things off with Brendan.
Brendan Plone with the Denver Post. For you, when you look at the challenges this group has had to, we talked about it all year, the kind of remarkable turnaround. Now that it's the week of the first playoff game for this organization, how much does it hit you about the journey that kind of the group has collectively been on?
I'm going to answer that in two parts probably, because I think number one, I want to address the turnaround piece of it, because I feel like I don't think enough credit's been given to the group and what they did as the season progressed last year. So for us, we feel like more like it's been a progression rather than a turnaround. It was a really slow start last year, the first 3 months of the season. But when we got to the June time period, we actually had the fourth best number of points in the league from June to the end of the season. So you saw the work that was being done and the foundation that had been laid start to pay off at the end of the season. We were able to add a little bit from a talent standpoint in the off season and continue to progress as we go. But I think that's kind of the building process of that. So I just want to kind of clarify in there on that. There is an incredible feeling of accomplishment, and I think you guys may have seen what Pat Noonan said yesterday about winning Supporter Shield in MLS, and I think there is something about going through an entire season, in our case 28 instead of 34 matches, but to prove yourself over that time period as the top against the teams that you play a couple times, home and away, go through an entire season. And to be fair to Erik and his group, they did it from day one to the finish. There wasn't a ton of question in the end, although we were challenged literally every single week. The 5 teams that were alive Sunday night in the playoff race all took points from us at home. So it wasn't an easy thing for us to get through that and for those guys to get through it. But to get more to your question, there's an unbelievable happiness on that day because it came down to that kind of last day where we were competing really for that number 1 seed with Charlotte. But then there's also this feeling like this is the process, though, and the joy actually comes from what we do every day. The people that are in that locker room, the people you rely on, I mean, the people that are setting this up, everybody's been a part of this. And people that have won championships, I think, know what I'm talking about when you say there's almost an emptiness at times if you're so bought into the process. You don't want that to end. No matter how great it ends, no matter how you want to celebrate, from a player standpoint, you don't know how many times you're going to be able to do that. From a staff standpoint, you think about, all right, what are we doing next? You know, how do we keep this going, and how do we achieve and continue to achieve, and how are we driven to do that? And I couldn't be prouder of the whole group. There's been a hell of a lot of work that's gone in since November of 2021 when this all kind of got confirmed and we were moving forward and we were on it. And to be where we are today, I think we're proud. We're also very appreciative of the people that have gotten us here and the people that have supported our efforts all the way through.
I just kind of wanted to build off that a little bit. Pat Radigan, footy at 5280. I come from the world of college sports, and so in the last couple of years, a ton of coaches have started to talk more about that winning mentality, about recruiting people. It's different for you guys. It's not like you're going and picking people from club teams that are successful, but at this Rapids 2 level, there is like that buy-in that you talk about. How important is it from an organizational standpoint to see that these young players can come in and not just compete to be on the field, but can buy in to help the team win?
These guys are getting sick of hearing it in meetings around here, but I believe that, you know, winning is part of the development process and learning how to win and sometimes not being accepting of anything less than the top level. If we weren't extremely talented, then I think you take good performances and you build on good performances. We're at a stage where I think we are very talented. We do have game changers. So our expectation in that locker room, not just on Sunday afternoon, but on Tuesday morning, is that we go out and we get the work done with, quite frankly, whatever group is there on the day, because it may be that a couple of these guys have earned their way into a first team session or gone or whatever that or heck, they're away with the national team, right? So, you know, by earning that, it just the next man has to stand up. And I think anytime there's been any hint of a drop in standard here, it's been corrected either by the coaching staff or by the group as a whole. I think the standards within the group are excellent. And so culture built around excellence leads to the winning. And I think, you know, if you walk across that hallway every single morning, it's a pleasure to watch guys come in, shake everybody's hand, appreciate who's there with them, and then go to war both with and against them, you know, at least for 90 minutes. And it's a fun group to be around. And look, I love every one of those guys, and I also believe that culturally we're getting it right, and winning is a part of that culture.
Hi, Brian. Afternoon.
How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Excellent.
Matt Pollard, Burgundy Wave. Brian, I've spoken to so many people in the organization about the iterative learning between starting out last year, obviously all the failures off the field. In what way, or what's the biggest lesson that you've learned that has you better in your role today from, let's say, January of last year?
For me, I think that not being afraid to stick to standards and just ensure that everything we do, you know, it's probably my job to be the standard bearer for the group and allow everybody else to go do their jobs. We've hired very good people, and that includes the playing staff. And so, the one thing that I talked about with our staff at the very beginning of the first year was that I am going to be micromanaging a lot of things over the first 6 or 8 months, and my hope is that that means that I can just pull back and start tweaking things as we go. And I think the staff embraced that. I think they were very receptive, because sometimes having a person that's not maybe in the fight on the field in every training session be able to come in and say, hey, have you thought about this, or have we thought about the way we want to attack this? So I think that's one thing that I've learned is that stay hard on the standards early, and then as we pull back, make sure that those guys can carry the standards forward without you micromanaging them. And we've been really fortunate with that. We did a great job as a staff of sitting down the week after the season last year, breaking down every piece of what we're doing, whether it become the training, the communication, player movement, the way we travel, the way, like every little bit of what we did, we broke it down, we put it on boards. We actually used this room, and it was full of kind of poster boards that had everything in it that gave us an idea of where we had been, where we want to go, and what processes would give it that. So I think the constant reevaluation of where you are and the constant ability to not settle and not do things just because we did it that way last year has been another thing that I think we've been able to build on because of our experiences over the last 18 months.
Go, Brendan.
Brian, for you, I guess looking ahead to Sunday, you obviously had the choice between Austin, who you saw a bunch, and San Jose, who you obviously saw a couple times, and including that, I guess, away game that I can remember in which the 15-year-old keeper, who the academy kid, stepped in and saved the day when Abe went down. When you were looking at those two teams, what was the decision to go with Quakes 2, and what kind of, I guess, what did they present? What challenges did they present to R2?
Yeah, I think more of the technical questions I'll leave to Erik, just so that he becomes that thing. I mean, what I can tell you is we've spent the last, since we knew we qualified and we kind of knew where we were going to sit in this process. Again, there are probably still in that locker room poster boards up of every team that we could potentially play, the roster breakdown, the home versus away record, the first team contributions to the roster, their first team schedule, and who they're playing this week. All of those things came in. In the end, like I said earlier, these teams have all taken points off of us this year, and so it came down to such fine margins that we've really gone back to what the regular season told us, and the regular season told us that they were a lower seed, and that maybe it's the safer choice for us to go there. Not because they're not good; their record on the road is excellent, but that was their consistency over the entire season played into it. So, from any other specific questions, I'd refer you to Erik.
I was planning to ask both of you this question anyways, Brian, but maybe you've already answered that it's no comment or leaving it to Erik. But do you like the playoff format? Do you like the choose your own adventure? Would you rather have it be seeded? Does it not matter?
Listen, I think if you're a fan, it's great. I think if you're the 6th, 7th, 5th, well, in Austin's case, maybe the 4th seed, it's great because it gives you something else to talk about in the locker room. From our chair, it is freaking brutal. It is not fun because you are going, no matter what you choose, if you choose the last place team in the league, they were still chosen, and you were going to give them motivation. And the amount of respect that we have for the opponents in the Western Conference is unbelievable. And the conversations that we've had about each opponent, if you could hear those conversations, you'd understand exactly how much we respect everybody in the league, and we understand what everybody in the league what problems they could cause and have caused us. So to go back to your question, this year I'm not a big fan of it. I don't know. Maybe next year it'll be something. But look, it's caused buzz. They struck gold by having Benny taking the first swipe at it because you knew you were going to get something out of that. But hey, look, it's something that's created some entertainment for sure.
Yeah, Brian, I'm looking at the roster of who is available. Obviously, a lot of, I don't know. I'm just seeing all these guys who've contributed throughout the year, and heading into Sunday, it's obviously going to be tough to choose, like who's going to be on the field and who's going to just be a contributor. When you look at who was selected and why, was there any particular rhyme or reason to that, or was it just making sure everybody who had the 5 caps and was available was selected?
Everybody on that list is playoff eligible, and that's all the players that are playoff eligible that are on the list that you guys would have received. We're really happy with the contributions of everybody on that list. So if we have to go to any player on that list, I think we're going to be comfortable with doing that. So in the end, that's kind of it's just an inclusive list for us now. Now it becomes about first team needs, second team needs. We've got a goalkeeper that's off with the U.S. national team. There's a lot of things that will factor into the way we put together not only the match day roster, but the 11 that go in there. And again, those factors you can kind of maybe spend a little bit of time with Erik and speaking to him about that. But the group of players that we have on that list have earned the right to be there. They've achieved something as a group already, so it's kind of fun to look at those guys and say those are the ones we're going to war with.
Brian, how rewarding has it been, not just the success that the team as a whole has, but at least in my time around them, they really celebrate each other's wins. And so to cap that off with 3 players who are best 11, I think there's an argument for a 4th, but we won't go down that rabbit hole. But your thoughts on the individual successes of the players that has then compounded the team's success, and that being at the root core of Rapids 2's purpose.
No, it's been awesome, because if you look at the 3 guys that made the best 11, you can go, and you said maybe one more. I would argue there's 2 or 3 more that could be in that. It's going to be hard for us to convince them to put 6 guys in the first 11. We weren't that dominant, but I think the individual successes. Look, it's easy with the attacking players, right? Those are the guys that score the goals. Remy's a hard guy to leave off that no matter what happens. But you got a guy like Marlon Vargas who has literally led the league in assists and isn't in the best 11. And those things are, it becomes it's a little mind-boggling at times. But there are limits on how many people are going to vote for how many guys off your team. But the performances throughout that, and you go deeper into the group, and we got guys that haven't even been here in a while. Like, we've had a lot of guys. I won't get into individual, naming a lot of individuals, but we've got a lot of guys that should be considered for their contributions to the group. Guys that showed up every morning and fought for the group. And going back to your thing, they do celebrate each other. We announce that, and you always have an eye on the guys that aren't gonna be in that group that feel like they should be. And there wasn't even a blink. It was turn to the next guy and give them a hug and say, that is cool that you were recognized for that. And the nice thing is, at this stage, they still have the ability to go achieve something even better together and to be a hero. Anybody on that roster might be the guy, right, that becomes the hero over the next 3 matches. More specifically over the next 1 match, because that's all we're guaranteed. And so I think every single one of them will be happy for whoever that person is, because they have been to this point. Just playing volleyball here?
Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, just last one for me. When you think about, I guess, the playoff atmosphere that was here 2 years ago, I know that was the first team, but this is obviously still a huge stage for the organization. Just what are you looking forward to atmosphere-wise Sunday, and how the R2 crowd that's been to DU, that's been to DSGB can, step up and really see these guys perform at this elite stage.
You're not going to believe this, but I think these guys deserve everything they get, with anybody that shows up. What I do know is there will be some passionate people in this building that are awfully damn proud of a group of players that have achieved something together for this badge. And in the end, their unselfish approach to the way they have seen the season, the way they've supported their teammates, the way they've suffered together at times to achieve will ironically be the biggest factor in their own individual successes. And that's the exciting thing. And I think that I don't know how many people are going to be here on the weekend. What I do know is the people that will be here will be totally bought in. They will be here for the right reasons. They'll be here supporting some guys that have unbelievably good futures and have represented our badge with an unbelievable amount of pride and dignity, and just it's a group of players that we'll all remember for a long, long time. So I don't know how many people. I don't know what the atmosphere is like. I know that our guys will be motivated to walk out of that tunnel and play on that first team pitch and represent the club.
Any more questions? All right, awesome. Thank you, Brian.
You bet. Thanks, guys.
We'll go ahead now and bring in head coach Erik Bushey. All right, we are joined here now by Rapids 2 head coach Erik Bushey. We'll go ahead and start off with some general remarks from Coach.
Obviously excited about the challenge that's in front of us. We have a great deal of respect for San Jose, so our preparation for them will be appropriate for that respect that we have. It's been nice to have. It's been nice to be able to watch a bit, see the other teams fight it out. There's been some excellent games. It was good for us to have a little bit of a reprieve and to be able to set our sights on what's coming for this weekend. And so that's what lies ahead this week, a healthy week, a normal 5-day build-in for a game that we expect to be excellent. So we're excited to host and excited to play.
All right, we'll go into questions now. Just a reminder to state your name and outlet. We'll start out with the back.
Hi, Coach. Matt Pollard, Burgundy Wave. You had a 2-2 draw that obviously you ended up winning then in penalties against San Jose. And just for my own opinion, that was some of the toughest 60 minutes you guys had at home there, where you were down 2-0. What challenges does San Jose present? How do you improve upon that to get the result on Sunday?
Yeah, they're a nice soccer playing team. I mean, I really do have a great deal of respect for the soccer, the style that they play, the movement, the interchange. I've talked to Dan, their coach, about it, who I have a lot of respect for as well. But I think some of what they do better than some of the other teams is the timing with which they move, the timing with which they interchange positions, and they have a lot of players who are comfortable with the ball, comfortable in tight spaces. They enjoy combining to get out, combining to attack. It's really a healthy challenge. So, for me, we have to be careful to not allow ourselves to be playing at a numerical disadvantage. If they get numbers, they're going to be that much more dangerous. And we have to pay attention to details. We have to track men. We have to hit players. We have to follow our principles. And that's really where we come back to our training. But you're exactly right. Very, very tough game. A wonderful comeback for us in the end, and it was great for us to gain points.
Erik, Brendan Plone for the Denver Post. When you look at all of your availabilities, first team guys, R2 guys, academy guys, when you look at, I guess, the amount of contributions heading into this week, how much more difficult is it going to be to select a playoff starting 11?
Yeah, difficult. And I'm super excited to have the challenge. I think there's a lot of points last year we weren't able to have. Well, you wouldn't be posing the same question, and that's no disrespect to the guys who fielded the team last year. It's a great deal of respect for the guys who've competed for us this year. So we have worthy starters that will be on the bench, and there's just no way of avoiding that. But if you, as we've proven to be, one of the top teams, that's the way it's going to be. And one of the things that I'll rely on is what the players have done all year, and that is be a great team. And to be a great team, you have to be a great teammate. So guys are going to be pissed if they're not in the 11. They have to be prepared when their number's called. That is the nature of the beast. And I wouldn't want it any other way. I want them hungry. But I trust them. I trust that at the end of the day that each player will give of themselves for the team. And that's what I mean by doing what we've done all year. We are where we are because we have had players consistently come into our group and give of themselves for the team. And I've stated this multiple times throughout the year. In a league that is driven to promote the individual, we are here to provide a platform to move players up. In that environment, we have also built a great team, and I think guys will show that they are a great team, and that individually they are great teammates when competition comes.
Pat Radigan, footy at 5280. It was already mentioned in the press conference. Sorry, I forgot Brian's name for a second. It was already mentioned in the press conference about the fact that these teams have taken points off you. These teams have had competitive results at you. A lot of times when you're the top seed, that means that a lot of teams have something to come back to give you. But for you guys to have taken a punch in the mouth from all these teams around and to have a little bit kind of in the tank to kind of get even with them, how much does that motivate and help your team as the top seed to kind of know none of this is going to be easy?
Yeah, well, we certainly know that. The 28 games we've played have been very hard. There's a few games in there we've had perhaps a win that was by multiple goals, but only a few. And I've already spoken to the respect I have for San Jose, and everybody's mentality is going to be prepared, driven, motivated to win. And everybody knows if they don't win, they go home. And so when your back is against the wall, it's difficult to predict sometimes what's going to be the result of that. And then when you put that with talent, which San Jose has, and to be fair, each of the 8 teams in the country remaining and more have that. So I don't know if it adds to our motivation, but it most definitely adds to our feeling of a need for preparedness. And that's where the staff comes in. We have to help the players be prepared. But we've had to win all kinds of games, including those where we weren't the best opponent over 90 minutes, as was alluded to in the first question. That can build confidence for us going into the tough game.
Erik, not to turn this into a Rapids One press conference, but I mean, how happy were you for Sebi to get the result in the start on Saturday, and what's he meant to your team this season?
Yeah, I mean these are successes for the club, and we're excited when we play a role like we have with Seb. Seb is a soldier and a warrior, somebody who I believe is deserving of the opportunity he got last week. So it was wonderful to see him perform. But he's a guy that, if it's needed, that the minutes in our environment, well, we're always excited to get him. But you know, it's easy to forget in these times when we're talking about playoffs and winning a trophy. And listen, that's important. It's important to me. It's important to every player in that locker room. It's important to the club. The club has shown that in spades, really, coming out these last few weeks. But we also can't lose track of the fact that we're here to push individuals. And watching Sebi play 90 minutes, play well, help the team keep a clean sheet, that is success for the club and first and foremost for Seb. So excited for him.
Coach, a logistical question, because schedule-wise, it looks like the first team is going to be in Texas all week, starting tomorrow through Saturday. For those, and we've seen it before, where you know the guys who are younger typically come back for the Sunday game and play R2. Is there thought to holding some of them back to train with R2 and, you know, be in that contention? How are you handling this logistically? And also, is Adam going to be back Sunday or not yet?
Well, logistics are one of the biggest parts of our programming. You know, when it comes to the first team and then into Rapids 2. And this week, to be fair, is no different than any other. I mean, we are prepared to adapt and adjust right up to the last minute, and we've had to do that a few times this year, whether it be injuries, whether it be due to loans, whether it be to you name it. Last-minute plane trips are just a part of the gig, so we're equally prepared for that this week. You know, what I can say is the club and certainly Chris have been ultra supportive of what we're doing, and I continue to be supportive of what he's doing and what the club is doing. Again, it's a similar point to the last answer, but you know, you can lose sight of all that the priorities are listed here in the club when we're seeking to get a trophy. But the individual is still at the heart of that. Player movement is still at the heart of that in trainings and in games. So there's a balance that we are, or a thin line that we're perhaps straddling, that says we're trying to prepare to win a trophy. We can't do that without winning this weekend. At the same time, we're trying to support the player and the club. And most times when I say support the club, I mean support the first team. So that is a daily piece and will be up until our game on Sunday. In terms of Adam, to be honest, I don't know his travel itinerary and when he returns. Obviously, it would be a tight turnaround. But again, that's what our players are prepared for. So if he's available, then we'll look at what his week has looked like, what his travel has looked like, and what's best for him and our team. And if he's not, then we'll act based upon what's best for our team and next man up. And I think for our team, and specifically our goalkeeping program, I mean, the first time we played San Jose, I think we put in Diego, who's 15, 16 years old, because Abe goes out 20 minutes in. I think we have 5 keepers prepared right now to play. That's one of our great strengths. So I'll let you know Sunday evening.
More questions from the group? Matt?
Coach, what does success for playoffs for you look like? You know, I think you've done, speaking to you and speaking to the players, you know, you've done a good job of making sure they celebrate their wins. And, you know, there were 3 or 4 games in a row there where it was clinch the division, clinch the conference, and then, I don't know if we're calling it formally decision day. That's a MLS first, but you know what I mean in terms of the last match day and how the dramatics behind then being the number 1 team in the league as well. And so you've had all those opportunities to celebrate individual and then team successes as well, but now either it's ending in you guys lifting in a trophy or it's ending in a loss. And I'm wondering how you're framing and understanding that, or is it just win or go home, baby?
Yeah, it's a little bit of everything. I think, you know, we did take a moment to soak in after the very last game, you know, what it meant over 28 games. I said that before, that, you know, around the rest of the world, that's what the season is based on, you know, what you do over the course of the many months that you're playing and competing. Our country's a bit different, and everybody plays by those same rules, and we know that there's a cup at the end, there's a trophy only for the team who succeeds in that playoff run. But we did take a moment to just at least acknowledge what we did over the course of 28 games. But it was a fine line there as well, because if you lean too heavily on that, it's as if you're taking pressure off of these next 3 games. And that's the last thing I want to do, is take pressure off, or to try to take the limelight away from the players and the opportunity to say, it's okay. Listen, the players want to win. So what success mean? It means winning. You know, I think in that way, it's critical that I can empathize with the player. The player wants to win. So anything short of winning our next 3 games is not success. And I think there'll be time when the season ends, whether it be this week or in 3 weeks' time, to really reflect back and see all that was wonderful about this season. I will do that, and I would hope that each player does that. Right now, the focus is on San Jose and taking the first steps, because that's all we can do. And I would say that outside of taking the moment to acknowledge what we've done over the 28 games, there was also this odd sense that it just wasn't enough. And to be fair, I was surprised, because I had the same feeling. It was like, what's next? Like there's more on the table. And I didn't really expect that, but it's certainly there. I think the players have that as well. No, San Jose will be no less motivated than us, but I do know that we will be motivated, and I do know that we'll be ready to compete.
Coach, last one for me. You know, earlier in the season, you said, you know, kind of one of the goals is getting these guys ready to play in front of the big stage, the big crowds. I mean, so far this next pro playoff season, we've seen, I don't know, 9,000 to 10,000 people in St. Louis, a couple thousand in Columbus. Atmosphere-wise, how do you get these guys ready for this moment, and how it'll be, frankly, different than any other game, even here when you have played at DSGP?
Yeah, we don't know exactly what that's going to look like. I hope there's a lot of people that come out and support us. And many of the cases, we have to be the one that create our environment. We are the ones that create the excitement. Certainly if we get assistance from the fans, and those have been probably the most enjoyable games, that's just what fans bring. But it also goes into the last question about success. This is success because we have earned the right to play in games that are going to bring more pressure. This is what the player must be seeking, because it's in these types of games where players have the best chance to prove who they are. And again, I think that's what we're excited about. The players will be prepared to play in front of 100 people, or 1,000, whatever arrives. We look forward to the help that they'll give us, and we expect to create our own excitement, our own intensity, our own passion in terms of our desire to win.
More questions? All right, thank you, and that will conclude today's press conference for Rapids 2.
All right, thanks everybody.